Hello, hello. All right, guys. So we're going to have a video about the notes for today. Sorry I was not able to be there today. We're just doing a continuation of what we did Friday, um, where we do the equations based off of the verbal expressions. I'm going to be typing on here. So that's the only difference. So it says Jenny's cookie stand sold 7 cookies and 2 lemonades for $5.50 to her customer on the first day. The second customer bought 10 cookies and 1 lemonade for $6. Write a system of equations and determine the price of each cookie and lemonade. So this is the same 3 types mostly as what we did Friday. So if you notice, we actually have 6 numbers, 3 per sentence. So we're going to be doing type 1. And the variables, obviously, they say it like a million times, is going to be cookies and lemonade. So now on your assignment, it's going to say something like, let me type it in here. It's not going to be on your notes, but let me show you so you can get used to it. It'll say something like cookies, or let cookies be represented by X, the letter X, and let lemonade be represented by Y. Now, it doesn't seem important, but it kind of is, because when we actually have to start graphing this, obviously letters like A, B, C, whatever aren't going to be working when you're typing it in the calculator for a graph. The only 2 letters that will work are X and Y. So we're going to get kind of used to doing this a little bit. We're going to only do this like on 2 problems. The rest will be normal because there will still be some where it'll ask for like A and B and stuff like that. So, all right. So uh, for cookies, we're going to make that X. And then for lemonade, we're going to make that Y. All right, and then so we're doing the first sentence as my first equation. So 7 cookies, so 7x plus 2 lemonades, so 2y equals $5.50. And there's our first equation. Then our second equation is the second set of 3 numbers. So it's 10 cookies, so 10x plus, and sometimes they will say like a lemonade. Just make sure you know that means 1, because they're still talking about it in a singular way. 1y equals, I'm just going to put 6. You don't have to put the decimals when you type it in. And that's it. So that's my first one. So if we move down to the second one, it says Justin has 940 dimes and nickels as a total of $69.50. Write the system of equations. So this is type 3 because they are talking about dimes and nickels, and they only give us 2 numbers. So we know that dimes, and let's leave this as D and N for now. So we know we're talking about dimes. So we'll leave that as D. And then we were talking about nickels. So we know that is N. So we obviously know that dimes is going to be represented by 10 cents. I'm going to write it here on the side somewhere, since I am, for whatever reason, not able to type it up here. Oh, maybe I am. There we go. So dimes is 0.10. Not 10. It'll give you an option. It'll say like 10 or 0.01 or whatever. So make sure you don't confuse it. And the nickels are obviously 0.05, not 0.5, not 5, 0.05. So now we have our $3 symbols, technically, right? Because these are all these are all talking about money. So my first equation is going to be everything with a dollar symbol. So 0.10 dimes, since 10 cent is worth a dime, plus 0.05 N, because it's a nickel. Now, they will try to trick you on this. They will put like 0.10 N plus 0.05 D. And if you're not paying close enough attention, that'll throw you off because there's so many equations, right? In a multiple choice, you would have like 8 equations. So just make sure you take your time and look at each set and make sure the letters with the correct number next to the correct number equals $69.50. That's my first equation. Now, since the only number left is 940, we know that we can just drop down the DNN, which most of y'all did really well on Friday, and it's going to equal your final number. I think most people did pretty good on Friday over this subject. And that's it for the second one. We're going to start getting into more, not really difficult ones. Towards the bottom, the last two are going to be kind of difficult, if you can kind of tell, because they're different than what we're normally used to. I'll go over that in a second. That one actually doesn't really have any rules. It's just going off of whatever they say. So let's continue with this. And let's actually say that each apple is X and watermelon is going to be used as Y, okay? All right, so at HEB, Robert bought 4 apples and 2 watermelons for $10. Later, Lewis went to HEB and bought 4 apples and 6 watermelons for $24. So this is type 1, since there is 6 numbers and 3 in each sentence. So for my variables, they want apple to be X, so apple will be X, and they want watermelon to be Y. So watermelon will be Y. Okay, and then so my first 3 numbers, some of you I'm sure already have it done. 4x plus 2y equals 10. And you can put 10.00 if you want. That's fine as well. And then for the second one, we have 4 apples and 6 watermelons for $24. Let's just do yellow. So 4x plus 6y equals 24. Now, I'm trying to think of how they would confuse you here. The way they would try to confuse you here most likely is they would switch the x and the y. So they would have like 4y plus 2x would probably be the most likely thing for them to confuse you on. So just be aware of that. A lot of times how they try to confuse you, they're going to switch the letters. It'll still be in order. They'll still have x and y, but it'll say like 2x plus 4y. And just know what letter goes with what number. All right, let's move on to the next one. Jay works at a candy store. He's responsible for counting the coins at the end of his shift. His counts 200 coins total for a value of $15.35. They can either be nickels or dimes. So this is pretty much the same as what we did earlier. So for nickels, we know it's 0.05, and for dimes, we already know it's 0.10. And we know that these technically have a dollar symbol in front of it. To make sure we know where the decimal and the zeros go. We're just gonna leave it at green. And since we know that there's also a third dollar symbol in the actual equation. So we know these are gonna go together. And for this variables, we know it's the actual monetary value itself. So nickels will be the first one. And they will tell you usually, like on the star of the test, what letters they want you to use. They will usually say like, use N for nickels and D for dimes, or use X for nickels and Y for dimes. So they'll usually tell you what letters to use. If they don't say anything, then you can kind of usually use like N and D or whatever the first letter of the word is. All right, so I know my first equation, I have 0.05 nickels plus 10 dimes, that's how much a dime's worth, equals 15.35. Oops, I meant to be an equal symbol. There we go. And then since my only other number is 200, it's just n plus d equals 200. Okay, we got one more, and then we're moving on to the new stuff, which is a little bit difficult. All right, it says the Frosty Ice Cream Shop sells sundaes for $2 and banana splits for $3 on a hot summer day. The shop sold 8 more sundaes and banana splits and made $156. So for this type, this is going to be type 2, which we put all the dollar symbols together. And let's see, they're talking about sundaes and banana splits. So for a sundae, I'll use S, and then for a banana split, I'm just going to put B. And we know that since there's 3 dollar symbols, that these are going to be in my first equation. So I have 2S, because they didn't specify what to use, plus 3B equals 156. Now, another thing I'm going to talk about real quick, since this should be easy, is sometimes they will flip it, and that's still correct. They could write something like this. I'm just going to put it over here. Or, like, this is just in case you don't see this equation. They could have it backwards. They could have the total first. So they could say 156 equals 2S plus 3B. This is still correct because it's the same thing. It's still technically 2S plus 3B on one side and 156 on the other. So in case they actually flip it, don't freak out. Just make sure your correct letters with the correct number, and that the largest number is by itself, which this technically is. So just in case you see that, you'll know that this is actually also a correct answer, okay? And then so the only thing I have left is the number 8. So S plus B equals 8. Now this is what we're normally used to. The only difference that I see on here, if we read it, the shop sold 8 more sundaes and banana splits. More usually means subtraction. So that one's a little bit tricky because we're not used to that. So the shop sold 8 more sundaes than banana splits. So let's see, that would be eight plus B equals S. And I know that looks weird. You just have to kind of read the sentence. So we're getting to the territory right now with these bottom 3 where you have to reread stuff because it says they have 8 more sundaes than banana splits. So if you think about that little section right here, so the most they have is sundaes, right? So the 8 is not the total. Sundaes is technically the total because they're saying this is the most that they have. This is the biggest number out of these 3. And then it says 8 more with banana splits. So it's kind of tricky for this one. We're not going to have too many like this. These 2 are going to be kind of similar to that, but these are not going to be part of our normal 3. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We're going to be really careful about the wording for these 2. So it says the perimeter of a rectangle wooden deck is 90 feet. The deck's length is 5 feet less than 4 times its width. So we do know the variables because they're talking about length and width. So we're going to use L for length, a capital L. And then for width, I'm going to use a capital W. Now, if you don't know this, the perimeter of a rectangle. So this is going to be on your STAR reference sheet. It'll be like the page 1 of your test. It'll have some formulas, some equations, some laws. to help you out if you remember to go back to it since you won't have any notes for the star. So the perimeter of a rectangle, if you don't know, is this. So the perimeter, it's P, this is the equation, P equals 2L plus 2W. And maybe some of you remember that. But they're going to assume that you know what it is. So they won't tell you what the perimeter is. You just kind of have to know it. Okay. Obviously for your tests coming up this Friday, you will have notes for that. So make sure you write this down. And so what we're going to do is we're going to plug in stuff based off of the total of the perimeter. So it says the perimeter is 90, right? So this 90 is going to represent P. So instead of P equals 2L plus W, we're going to put 90. This is where we can kind of go, you can see that we can go backwards or forwards. So I'm actually going to put the total first. So 2L plus 2W. Now, if on the assignment they have the total last, that's fine as well. They could have 2L plus 2W equals 90. That's fine too. Most people will be accustomed to this, but this, I think this is what's on the assignment. It's gonna look more like this. And then, so my equation now here, the second sentence is actually a little bit crazy. If we read it, it says the deck's length. So the length is, the good news is if you don't know what is means, means equals. So I'm gonna kind of write it out as we're reading it. So the length is means equals 5 feet less than 4 times the width. Man, that's a lot. Okay. So we have the number 5. So 5 less than. So less means minus. We'll get to the word than in a little bit in case some of you forgot what that means. 4 times, so 4, and you can put a multiplication symbol if you want. Times, since it's an invisible multiplication symbol, we can just write the letter right next to it, W. 4 times W or 4W. They will not put a multiplication symbol in the middle on your assignment or your star or your test. So just be aware that when they say 4 times something, just put that number next to the letter. Now, the word than. Once we're done writing this, for those of you that remember, the word than means we're going to switch the placement of this term and this term. So instead of 5 being first, we're going to flip it and we're going to make sure 5 is after the minus symbol. So they're going to switch places around the minus symbol. So 4W is actually going to go first and 5 is actually going to go last. That's what the word than does. The word than, we're going to write it here, switches, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to have it on all caps, switches places around the plus or minus symbol. And it's always going to be around the plus or minus symbol, guys, okay? They're never going to have it around anything else because it'll always be only less than or more than, and that's it. So more than means we're going to do plus and then flip it. Less than means put a minus and flip it, okay? All right, and then we're on to our last one. So it says half a number is 16, the number plus another number is 10. So I'm going to use for number, for my variable, I'm going to use n. So let's say this is x or whatever, right? So they say like a number here twice, right? And then they say here's another number. Another number is different, okay? They're saying like this is y. So this is a completely different one. So another number is your other variable. I'm going to put a. So this is going to be usually by sentence for these types. If you notice like the perimeter This was one sentence for one equation, and then the second sentence was for the other equation. For these types that aren't 1, 2, or 3, usually it's gonna go by sentence. So half of a number is 16. So half, we know what half is. It's 1/2, easy. Of a number, so n is means equals, and then 16. Make sure that you remember that is equals, okay? Oops. Is equals. So that one's, the first equation is pretty easy. And it says that number, so n, plus another number, which I'm gonna use a, and then there's that is word again. So is another equals. Equals 10, just the number 10. So that one wasn't too bad. You just got to make sure you know kind of like what word means what. Most of them are straightforward. Um, I think we're only going to have, I think I only put one question like this, these types, on the assignment. So the others are normal. The others, and I'm not going to have anything like this, the more than or whatever. Most of them are going to be like the 3 types that we learned on Friday. And I put one hard one in there. It's like one of these, I forgot which one, but that's pretty much it. Your assignment is on Schoology. It's already open. I believe it has 3 attempts. Use your notes, please, to make sure you get a good grade on it. And if you did an assignment either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, I have not been able to grade it yet. Okay, my apologies. I've been tired, honestly. So what I will do is by Wednesday, I will have everything updated, okay, from the weekend and from Friday. So don't panic, don't worry. I'll have it up by Wednesday, okay? All right, guys, have a good day. And I will be here tomorrow, so I will see you tomorrow.